2 inches behind us is, can we just play a football game? Is that too much to ask to play a freaking football game? Yeah, it is anymore. Yeah. So obviously the national anthem is going to be 8-time Grammy Award winner Chris Stapleton, who we all love and is going to do a terrific job. But he's white and he's country.
Uh-oh.
And bluesy. So that can't stand. So then you got to have, Rihanna at halftime. She's black. She's female. Then you got to have Babyface do America the Beautiful. The 64-year-old 12-time Grammy Award winner will sing America the Beautiful. And then you're going to have the black national anthem, which is Lift Up Every Voice and Sing. That's going to be sung by Emmy, Critic Choice, and Independent Spirit Award-winning actress Sheryl Lee Ralph. Now you think, okay, now you sound like a right-wing talk show host. Stop being an idiot. Okay, well, we got to have an Arizona native do the signing for the national anthem. And then that's not enough. We got to have Colin Denny, a member of the Navajo Nation in Arizona. So Native Americans. You can't have a Native Arizonan do a signing without having a Native American Arizonan do the signing. And that'll be for America the Beautiful. Then it's not enough to just have a military flyover in honor of the 50th anniversary of women flying.
Goodness.
I can't do it. In honor of the 50th anniversary of women flying in the U.S. Navy, the flyover will be done by all-female aviators. I mean, just enough!
They're going to have to start this thing tonight.
Oh, my Lord. Well, that's how it always is, right? By the time kickoff, we're exhausted, right? I mean, that was the gist of the movie Feast of Seven Fishes, was, after days and days of prep and all day prepping and cooking, the meal is, you're exhausted. Nobody wants to enjoy the meal. It's all an afterthought. And that's how the game is. But I mean, it's like when we see these television commercials and they got to have a gay, they got to have a straight, they got to have a white, they got to have a black, they got to have a Hispanic, they got to have an Asian, they got to have all this all in one scene. This notion that everything has to be represented, whether it's natural or appropriate or not. I mean, it's just, and most of it you won't catch. One you won't miss is the President of the United States going to be the first in this century to not do a Super Bowl interview? Well, the answer is yes. And is it a farewell concert for SNL's Victoria Jackson? I'm beginning to think her husband finally convinced her. I will try to reconvince her to stay on stage and make sure it wasn't me that ended her career. That's all next on WTN. It's 10 o'clock.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in Texas, Jim Ryan says the Texas Department of Public Safety has finished its probe into 7 state troopers who responded to the Uvalde school shooting last May.
91 Texas DPS personnel responded to Robb Elementary on May 24th, but despite harsh public criticism that nobody took charge of the active shooter incident, only 7 troopers were targeted in the agency's internal probe. 2 were fired, 1 was allowed to resign, the rest have been cleared of wrongdoing. State Representative Roland Gutierrez says that's not acceptable.
Everybody in Texas needs to examine the complete and utter failure that happened on this day.
Gutierrez is demanding that the head of the Texas DPS, Steve McCraw, submit his resignation.
19 students, 2 teachers died in that massacre. Breaking news, Fox News says the U.S. has test-fired an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean in the midst of new tension with China and North Korea. Traveled more than 4,000 miles and hit its target, according to Vandenberg Air Force Base personnel in California. Officials say this test fire had been planned for months, shows our allies, the U.S. is ready and capable of defending peace at a moment's notice. There's no mention of the Chinese spy balloon. And a special appearance at the Super Bowl events leading up to the big game. Will Reeve reports from Phoenix.
Damar Hamlin, that Buffalo Bills safety, made a surprise appearance at the NFL Honors along with the people who saved his life and helped him recover. And then he spoke with our Michael Strahan, saying what he is most thankful for.
That day with a clear mind and, whatever's going on in their personal life, just to put it aside and just to be present in the moment, to actually be able to do their job correctly. that's something I'm truly thankful for, and I don't take for granted.
Hamlin also earlier this week received the Alan Page Award for his charitable work, and more of his interview with Michael Monday on GMA.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
All right, at 10:06, we have cloudy skies in Middle Tennessee, but we'll take it. 47 degrees at the Puffy Muffin in Brentwood, 49 to the north in Hendersonville, downtown on Music Row. Cloudy skies, 48 degrees. It feels like 45 in Nashville at WTN. The market, Dow's up $35, Nasdaq's down $92. Probably the Yahoo news of 7,000 job cuts, and the S&P is down 4 at 4,077. So that's 2 out of 3 in the red, but we're going to call the market basically flat at 10:07. Want to talk about Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling of Tennessee. Simply the best and the most affordable. Best is not my opinion. They do residential light commercial. They service all brands, all technologies, conventional and geothermal. They're recognized by Rheem, one of the leading brands, as providing customers with the highest level of year-round comfort and service. They're an elite pro partner with Rheem. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi. If electric heat is your necessity or choice, we have the best products, maintenance, and pricing. And for everyone, we're A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau and licensed, insured, and bonded for your protection. When it comes to replacement, it's nice to have an expert, honest middleman tell you whether it makes sense to repair one more time or make the replacement. In all of my replacements, I had wished I had done it sooner. That's how amazing the new technology is. And Jeff takes all the sting out with interest-free financing and same as cash with approved credit. So whether it's maintenance, repair, or replacement, trust who I trust all year long. Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling of Tennessee. 784-4424, 784-4424, online at efficienthvac.net. Live from New York, it's Saturday night, 10:08 in the morning at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I remember when they were filming UHF in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I remember her for years with one of the greatest casts at Saturday Night Live in history. Victoria Jackson now lives in the metropolitan Nashville area, and she'll be appearing tomorrow night. If you'd like a little comedy before the Super Bowl, she'll be at the Homestead. Doors open at 6. Show starts at 7, and Victoria will not be alone. She's bringing some friends with her, and she joins us on the live line right now. What's this talk about a farewell tour? Why are you acting old? See what happens when you don't hang out with me?
Michael!
Why are you even thinking farewell tour?
Well, my friend Mandy said I should reinvent myself. And I thought, well, I'll do one last show and of my routine I've been doing for like 25 years. It's changed a little, but, it's my routine. And then I'll cut all my hair off and I'll dye it pink. I don't know. I don't know how to reinvent myself. What should I be?
Well,
I'm me.
I think Madonna has reinvented herself, and I don't think you want to follow that path.
She's tried to, but she's still the same. She looks like a prostitute.
So I was just reading in your bio, and I knew you came from a biblical background. I did not know that it was so strict that you didn't have TV. And of all the daughters, you go on to be in live television on a marquee show like Saturday Night Live. How did that play with your parents?
I was probably rebelling, right?
So they probably weren't impressed, I guess.
No. My dad was in vaudeville, and he loved show business and was a gymnastics coach, always putting on shows. So when we were little, he would not get a TV because he said he would be addicted to it. And he didn't want us to be addicted to it. So basically, they were very proud when I got on TV, and it's hard to be a Christian in show business, and my dad told me that, but I've navigated it okay.
Yes, you did. You were around some very, very creative and not necessarily godly people for many years, and you came out of it okay, and hopefully you had a great influence on them. This is a very special place you're playing in Columbia.
I know. It's Joey and Rory Feek's farm, and they built their barn into a theater, and I went over there the other day. It's the most special place. It's like you stepped right back into the 30s and 40s.
Yeah. It's going to be a good time. Tell us about some of your friends you're bringing with you.
Okay, well, Jim McBurney is my songwriting partner, and he has these 3 great songs that I love about marriage and true love that lasts forever. So I thought he would open for me because my whole act is about how difficult my marriage to a policeman is.
Right.
And so we'll counteract, And all my jokes are about my husband and then my other friend who's opening for me was my professor at Lipscomb, Bryn Daniels, and she is a professor by day, stand-up by night.
Now there's a combination, right? All right, so I did stand up the first time, at the Sandals Resort in the Bahamas. And again, I became I'm probably like your father. And at that time I was too young to realize what to avoid. So the whole vacation, we had a wonderful time, but I got obsessed with earning my sandals. And so there was a talent show night, and I could get enough points to get my sandals finally. So I got up and did a stand-up routine on everything about the resort, which at that time, the pool was really freezing. But people are on a vacation and they paid a lot of money, so they're getting in the pool even though it's freezing and not pleasant. So I do this whole skit doing a scene out of Titanic from the Sandals pool, and I think I have it won. And then this girl from Canada gets up and sings. I mean, apparently Celine Dion's twin sister happened to be at the Sandals. I came in second place and I earned my sandals the next day. And then I never thought about doing stand-up again until it was was that a fundraiser for Scott Hamilton, or was it opening for you? I can't remember what it was. And I just wung it and did it and had a great experience because I didn't think about it. You know, like I remember when people came up to me and said, how many minutes of material do you have? I didn't even know what that meant. I said, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm going to say. And then the third time I did stand up was opening for you. And I can't remember where we were, Shady something. And I bombed so bad.
You did not bomb.
You were hilarious.
No, you were being a little blue and they had children there.
Well, the whole thing, I couldn't do anything I wanted to do because I'm staring at a bunch of kids. So I'm trying to edit as I'm going. It was a disaster. It was so scarring. I've never done it again. You knocked him dead. The whole point of the story.
Michael, you were winging it. All stand-ups have a set routine. They make it look like they're just thinking of it, but they've been working on it for 30 years, every word of it.
Right. Well, I noticed that when I was watching you prep, and you have like years and years of material, and you kind of go through it and pick which ones you're going to do. But you were. I'm going to get to the point. The point of the story is you knock him dead up until the point where you step right into your ukulele, to the point where your foot's stuck in it. So I'm thinking you've got your songwriter with you. You're obviously going to do some songs. We've obviously gotten a new one since I bombed.
No, I have the same ukulele, and it still works with a big hole next to the hole in it.
Are you really going to play it with the hole in it? No.
That doesn't sound right.
That was a classic moment. I thought I'm the one that threw you off. I thought I bombed so bad I caused you to step on your ukulele.
No, my high heel pierced right through the uke, and it's actually a great thing because I had a line in the song about stepping on my ukulele, and like it was prophetic. It happened.
I'll never forget. Paul made a comment, which I thought was cruel, but it was so funny. People don't realize this. Paul is as dry looking and acting as they come, but he's very funny. In fact, we're very proud of him. He did an op-ed piece that got published. He finally had enough, and now, oh my gosh, we should all duck. Paul's getting politically involved, and he's very eloquent and very passionate. But normally when he cracks a joke, I mean, it is a deadpan face. And he goes, wow, from 30 Rock to here. And that night. And, and I kept thinking to myself, wow, I'm opening for a woman who who performed on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and got called over. That is something. I guess that would be the highlight, right? I mean, if this is a farewell tour, what was the biggest room you played and the biggest night of your life?
Oh, by the way, Michael, you do stand up all day, every day. That's kind of difficult, and I got to give you.
I do it much better sitting down. Let's just put it that way. People don't realize how hard stand up is, and some nights you just bomb. And like a good salesman that can handle rejection. I haven't. I've never done it again. It's so scarred me. Yeah, but I mean, it's hard work, and you do it very, very polished and well. That one after cancer was a perfect 10. That was a very funny and moving night.
I have cancer jokes. It's amazing. My two favorite moments in my career were, one, getting to be on Johnny Carson, and my second one was singing I'm Not a Bimbo on Saturday Night Live, and Steve Martin and Sting were the hosts that week. And we always had to write our own material, and I could never think of any. And that week, we were making fun of Jessica Hahn stripping for Playboy and then saying I'm not a bimbo, which later I got to meet her, and she was very gracious to me and said that she did laugh at it. And but it's still, the show kind of makes fun of people, which seems kind of mean. But anyway, she said it was funny. But yeah, that was my highest moment. And
do you agree, though, that probably the greatest moments of Saturday Night Live is the competing to get your material on the show all week leading up? That's the part nobody sees, right? And now looking back at your cast, I mean, it's a who's who of stars, right? So you were hanging out with some of the funniest people. I mean, Mike Myers went on to become iconic, and you all are competing to get your material on the show. That had to be, that should have been a reality show in and of itself.
Yes, I was hanging on to my part with these giants, these creative giants like the liar and the church lady, and I'm sitting in my office going, how do you write a character? I never had a TV. What are they doing? I don't know how to make up a character. And you know, for 20 years since the show, I've been trying to think of a character. Like,
should I talk like that?
Like, should I be cross-eyed?
Wait a minute. I got to be honest with you. That was really scary that you could do that. That's quite a range. I don't know who that was.
I do. This is Harriet. I'm a blue-blooded liberal from my head to my toes. I love Obama.
You need to do some of that in your set. I like that person.
Well, I do.
Get the short haircut. Do the whole thing. Pull up in a Subaru.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I did with all the bumper stickers that say get along or something. Okay, so I do that in my show. But anyway, the backstage is so competitive. We're all fighting for airtime. And the survival of the fittest is how it works.
Well, thank goodness you got to be a passenger for a driving cat. That worked out well for you. Let's
That was great because I didn't have to remember any lines except scream.
That's it. That's all you have to do. Can you imagine if the cat is driving? Although I did have my chameleon, Eleanor, drive my car for a while, which was probably pretty reckless, but I got away with it. Of all of them, I know how you feel about John Lovitz. Dana Carvey just seems like a really special human being. I was so proud of his special. I think it's probably now 4 years old. That I thought shows, even at his age today, having raised his kids, he's as brilliant as ever. Mike Myers maybe went on to do, I mean, there's a guy that would do his characters in his tub for his wife, and then that goes on to become all the Austin Powers movies. I mean, you really were surrounded by a lot of brilliant people. Who did you think was the most talented?
Ooh, tough question. The ones who were the nicest to me were Kevin Nealon, Dana Carvey, and John Lovitz. The most brilliant, I don't know. The ones who were the funniest to me, I think, were John Lovitz and Dana Carvey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dana's pretty off the chart. He could have done anything, and
Kevin Nealon has great stand-up act. He's a great stand-up, and he wrote me, I think, my first thing on SNL, Mr. Subliminal guy,
Subliminal Man, yes.
Yeah, and he put me in that, so I was thrilled. They were the nicest to me.
I'm trying to remember if was Hartman in your cast?
Phil Hartman, yes. I even went to his house where he got shot by his wife.
Yeah, because, I was watching, I don't know if it was Dana Carvey or if it was Kevin Nealon, and they were talking, it just seems like a consensus from everybody that he was the most, even though he was the most detached. I mean, this was not anything he really enjoyed doing or wanted to do, but that he may have been the most talented. And if he had more of a vision for it, he could have done anything. I mean, when I think of some of the great, like Caveman Lawyer, I always loved him a lot. But it's interesting that from cast members, I hear his name come up. And it was Dana Carvey who said it. He thought he was the most talented. Yeah. We'd probably argue that Dana was.
Hartman, well, Phil they called him the glue because he was in every sketch. He could play anybody. Like Jan Hooks could play anybody.
Yeah, Jay.
But, they're like, well, who are they? Like, my personality is so strong. I'm just me, no matter what I'm doing. But they would disappear into millions of characters. Like, that's what acting really is. All
right, so Victoria Jackson is joining us. She's going to be at the Homestead in Columbia tomorrow night. Doors open at 6. Show begins at 7. Let's get back full circle when we come back. This farewell tour, it's already not a farewell tour because I think you got another gig. I think it's only a farewell. I think you're pulling an Elton John. I think you're going to just constantly be doing farewell. You may do your most shows with these endless farewells. Victoria Jackson will continue from SNL next on WTN. All right, I'm Michael DelGiorno. I know it's a new year, but you're probably experiencing the same old pain from last year, the year before, or even decades before. Back pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, elbow pain. Why do we do it? It can all be treated. No needles, no downtime at the Dr. Gill Center in Franklin. We've been doing it literally going on 30 years. And I know you think of chiropractic care, and it really works. But it's so much more than that. We have state-of-the-art industry equipment, our Class 5 lasers, our red light therapy, spinal decompression therapy, a game changer. Dr. Gill was the pioneer in our state. That's separation without a surgery. Pinched nerves, unpinched, bulging herniated discs, repositioned. I have degenerative disc disease. You get a healing flow, blood supply, tissue, nerve ending relief. But all of these treatments are to pinpoint inflammation in the body, reduce pain, swelling, and then accelerate the healing. It's about pain-free living and getting back to doing the things you love. And we made our New Year special, $23 covers everything. We don't want to hear, can't afford it. $23 covers your extensive exam, any and all x-rays, your accurate diagnosis. Because no one can treat you till we diagnose it. $23 covers it all at the Dr. Gill Center. Now, I don't know how long that offer is going to last, so call our new number today and make your appointment. Time to live pain-free. Time to get back to doing the things you love. Call 882-4838. 882-4838. 882-4838. Online at callmepainfree.com.
The FBI at former Vice President Mike Pence's Indiana home. Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skermetti is joining counterparts in 21 other states with a request for the Biden administration about Mexican drug cartels. These stories and more at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I feel like Larry King.
The Full Hour.
Farewell tour for SNL's Victoria Jackson. One last show at the Homestead in Columbia. All your years on Saturday Night Live, did you ever fear for your life? It's interesting, and I think Dana's very conservative. There are several of your former cast members that aren't particularly political and or certainly not liberal, but in comedy today, it seems to be okay if you're woke. It seems to be okay if you're liberal. It seems to be okay even if you're liberal and say very dangerous, provoking, and divisive things. But how dare you be political and be conservative? I do want everyone to know, though, when you go see Victoria Jackson do stand-up comedy, she is a lifelong seasoned pro. This show has been prepared. You're going to go on a journey, and you're going to laugh all night long, and it's not going to be extraordinarily political. But talk to me about what most comedians are talking about, that all this wokeness and political correctness, it's ruining comedy, and laughter worketh like a medicine. Without comedy, it's ruining our country.
Yeah. Well, Rob Schneider, he's come out as a conservative, sort of come out as a conservative. And then I heard Adam Sandler was secretly one, and I kind of heard Dana Carvey was secretly one. But people are afraid to lose their career. But
Sure.
I've been pretty bold about it. In my stand-up, I'm not political. But people know what I believe in. But I don't. But I just want people to laugh, But so I don't talk about.
Well, you play this kind of a ditzy character, and there's nothing ditzy about you. And you are a very polished professional, and I've seen you prepare before a show. And you're not going to get up and wing it like me, and you're not going to bomb, and they're going to have a great time. And I encourage everybody. I got to tell you something. I'm very enamored by this venue, and I think this venue needs to grow, and I want to help it grow. And we need to start bringing more things to this in honor of this family that we love still and pray for still. But I just think it looks enchanting. So just a short drive away in Columbia, at the Homestead. You get your tickets at homesteadhall.com. Victoria and Friends, supposedly a farewell tour. I think she's shamelessly trying to take us on a journey to finally buy tickets. So let's all get online and buy tickets and go tomorrow night. Doors open at 6. Show starts at 7. Homesteadhall.com. SNL's Victoria Jackson kicks off her farewell tour right here in Columbia, Tennessee. I think it's a great pre-Super Bowl event for everyone to take in. It's my pick to click this weekend.
Thank you, Michael.
I'd say knock 'em dead, but you will. And by the way, don't think it went unnoticed that, like, while you just went on and on how me bombing opening for you wasn't a bomb, I do notice I'm not one of the people opening for you tomorrow night in your farewell tour.
Oh!
So apparently I'm credited with ending your career, but not being a part of your farewell tour.
I
have my priorities in the right place.
I wish you the best. I love you. Give my best to Paul, by the way.
I love you too.
I think you ought to have Paul open for you. A, he needs equal time, and B, every time I'm around him, nobody cracks me up more. God bless you both, and knock 'em dead tomorrow night. Homestead Hall in Columbia. Get your tickets at homesteadhall.com. Show starts at 7. Doors open at 6. Victoria Jackson, thanks for being our guest.
Thank you.
10:30 in the Music City. We got to do politics next. News starts now.
I just don't care.
.30 on the dot this Friday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Tell you about the rain that is a possibility this weekend. Meanwhile, breaking news, the FBI currently searching former Vice President Mike Pence's Indiana home for classified documents. Breaking news out of Florida. It involves the southern border crisis. NBC News says Florida's legislature has just voted to expand a program to fly migrants to sanctuary cities and states, that measure passing during a special session. And Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti says he's joining counterparts in 21 other states and asking the Biden administration to designate Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorists under federal law So to unlock resources to deal with the opioid crisis. News 2 says just last weekend, 2 men were busted in Murfreesboro with more than 100 pounds of fentanyl-laced drugs, which TBI believes came up through California. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
At 10:35, we have cloudy skies, 48 degrees in Franklin, 49 in Mount Juliet, 48 in the Borough. Downtown on Music Row, 49 degrees, feels like 46 at WTN. The market, I don't know if this is going to rally and ends up being a flat week or if it's going to take one more downturn and be a net couple 100-point loss. It seems to be trying to figure it out itself. The Dow is now up 77. NASDAQ's down 100, and the S&P is up $3. So it's basically a mixed bag and flat. We'll see what it does. Probably wouldn't be bad to have a 200-plus day to end the week even. Blue Umbrella Medical Center of Middle Tennessee. I know so many of you frustrated with sick care. That's what it is. We call it health care, but it's sick care. Health care would keep you from getting sick. And then when you are sick, you get no answers and no relief. That's just plain frustrating. I want to encourage you to try Blue Umbrella Medical Center of Middle Tennessee because you're going to find that Dr. Jay Hitson and her team of very talented physicians, including MDs, are different. We're going to get you real answers using state-of-the-art lab testing. Then we're going to use very sophisticated advanced diagnostic equipment and get to that root cause. And then once we have identified the root cause, use cutting-edge regenerative treatments to finally bring you the relief you've been seeking. Neuropathy is a great example. Acute, chronic, and crippling. And doctors will tell you there's nothing they can do and it's going to get worse. Not true. And our cutting-edge regenerative treatments stimulate, reactivate, and regenerate the damaged tissue areas and nerve endings, and we see immediate and long-term relief. So if you or someone you love or care for is suffering, stop. Pick up the phone, call Blue Umbrella Medical today. It's covered by insurance, and the consultation to begin the process is free. Call 610-6937, 610-6937, or online at blueumbrellamedical.com. That was a fun visit with Victoria Jackson.
That's great.
We all grew up watching those very talented cast members, and she lived it. That's fun to share those memories. I really think, I'll never forget when it became 2000, and everyone was wanting to do, okay, who was the greatest boxer of the century? Who was the greatest actor of the century? What was the best song, the best movie? And, of course, it's impossible to do. In fact, I remember I kept saying, everybody wants to have a discussion about the greatest athlete. Are we going to throw Secretariat in there? Because I think Secretariat was the greatest athlete. But I really think, when you do Saturday Night Live cast, there's been some great ones, but nothing like the cast she was on.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I mean, Phil Hartman.
Yeah.
Now, if Will Ferrell had been along by then it'd be hands down. Because when you go back to even Eddie Murphy, that's all they had was Eddie Murphy.
Yep.
The rest of the cast was weak.
Yep.
But, I mean, when you have Dana Carvey, Mike Myers, Phil Hartman,
Jan Hooks,
Nora
Dunn.
Nora Dunn was, I think, in that. Yeah, she was in that cast. I mean, that was just magical. John Lovitz, Victoria Jackson. I think it was hands down the best cast. And I will tell you, stand-up comedy is so hard. I had one good experience because I didn't view it as stand-up comedy. I just got up when I was myself. But when you try to be funny, it's hard to be funny. And, to do that one thing I did with her was so scarring because I got there and, it was a very country rural setting and it was kind of like more of a hootenanny crowd than a comedy crowd. Well, I didn't know what to do with that. And it was so scarring. I don't think I'll ever do it again, but I guess I don't have, this could be one of them, but, the way my worst show on radio sounds versus a great show on radio is about the same. But, when you bomb in stand-up comedy and you're all alone up there, it is scarring. And Victoria always delivers and never bombs. So I highly encourage you to go to Columbia tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Homestead Hall, which I think would be a neat place to start doing some annual shows. With that family background.
And we've got a couple super textures. Just maybe you could text Victoria. I should have looked earlier, but they're just wondering the best place to buy tickets because they can't necessarily find it. So we'll get that info to you.
No, I will. Just and if you want to type to them, Homestead, HOMESTEAD, Hall, HALL, homesteadhall.com is where you buy your tickets. So
great, perfect.
Yeah, homesteadhall.com to get your tickets. And I promise you, now I said this at the end, and I don't feel like, I'm not apologizing for her. She loves God, she loves her country, and she's conservative. But that's not what the show's about. And she'll mix in some real life. I'll tell you that show, her first show after cancer, was some of the hardest I've laughed ever. And literally, I think the only time I've ever cried, not in laughter, in real. I mean, she did some beautiful things in that. So it's not political. It's just life, and it's funny. And she's a treasure that lives among us. So homesteadhall.com, Columbia, 7 o'clock. All right, let's talk Joe Biden for a second. I did this with Ken earlier. Why would Joe Biden refuse to do a Super Bowl interview? Well, this could be part of it.
Relations now between the U.S. and China taking a big hit, frankly.
No.
How do you know?
I know. I talked to him.
You've talked to
Xi Jinping before. And our team talks to their people.
During this and since?
Yeah, after. I haven't talked to him during this.
Oh, so you haven't talked to him since this. Now, that's Judy Woodruff. That's PBS. See, anybody can script your State of the Union. It is a very controlled room. A room that you're in control of. You're the president. You're delivering the speech. There's no rebuttal in the room. There's enough people on your side, even when you say something very outrageous or unpopular, that still give you a standing ovation and kind of like I've been a part of one sitcom. It's when I was vice president at CBN, and the Family Channel then produced a sitcom, Jake. And I could tell you there were many times I was sitting there and I know the show wasn't funny. And I'm like, well, this is going to suck. But then when it finally aired and you add in all the laughter and fake applause, it didn't feel as bad. And that's kind of how a State of the Union is. Now, that should be your house, but you're not invited. And collectively, these representatives aren't really thinking of you. They're thinking of themselves and their own narcissism and their own power and their own agenda. And they're playing the theater for you. When you get alone in an interview, you don't control the theater. And there's no one to give your bad answer a standing ovation to hide it. You're there all alone. Now, the good news for Joe Biden in the State of the Union, no one was watching. You go on an interview prior to the Super Bowl, everyone's going to be watching. Everybody's going to be talking about the clip the next day. And if you have a gaffe like you just had with PBS that we're paying for, that has your worldview, that's trying to carry the water for you. Now, there is something that Judy Woodruff did here that I think is important. She didn't just let him get away with it. She wasn't completely void of journalistic integrity or ability. Let me rewind this for you. She asked the question. He gives his opinionated answer. It doesn't make any sense to her. She doesn't move on. She doesn't give him a chance to elaborate. She confronts him. And the more she confronts him, you find out it's a ridiculous opinion. He shot down their spy balloon, and he hasn't talked to them since. It made him look really bad. And this is Judy Woodruff.
Have relations now between the U.S. and China taken a big hit, frankly?
No.
How do you know?
How do you know?
I know. I talked to him.
Oh, you talked to him?
You've talked to
Talked to Xi Jinping before. And our team talked.
Now she's hearing the word before. You talked to him before, but have you talked to him since?
To their people.
During this and
yeah,
since?
After this. I haven't talked to him during this.
Oh.
But look, I mean, the idea of shooting down.
I mean, this should be one of the greatest presidential gaffes in history. Let me tell you something. There is a percentage chance that what's happening on the ground in Ukraine, that he never even discussed in the State of the Union, could lead to world war. There are some very wise, respected people that think World War III has already begun. And their peripheral vision is China. And the minute a war breaks out in Europe with Russia, they plan to move on Taiwan, if not America. I mean, for all we know, the first missile launch was COVID. The second missile is being targeted by gathering surveillance. You want to talk about something that isn't being talked about enough? Why wasn't this shot down in Alaska when it was discovered? Why did we allow them to hover and gather all the information they were looking for and didn't shoot it down till after they sent it all? Or how about this amazing gaffe on PBS? Not everybody watches PBS, and only people in the left matrix watch PBS. But I'm playing you the clip. Here's your president. Oh, I don't think things are strained. No. How do you know? Well, I've talked to him. You've talked to him during? No, not during, but. Now, not to relitigate this. All of this to get it, the smells in your nose and the flavors in your mouth and the textures being felt. And that's PBS. That's like the Titans announcer doing a tough interview with the Titans coach. That's Judy Woodruff. That's NewsHour. That's PBS. Unfortunately, the Super Bowl isn't airing on PBS. It's airing on Fox Sports. And if there is an interview to be done for the Super Bowl, it'll be done by Fox News. They wouldn't be asking him, who do you think is going to win, the Chiefs or the Eagles? They might even take it from right there. They might really challenge him on his whole State of the Union address, which, by the way, the biggest sin of it is him failing himself. Joe Biden promised to unite the country. We don't have to fight about everything. He took some of the cheapest cheap shots, the most divisive speech that no one watched. He failed himself. Secondly, he focused on himself, his agenda, and all of the narcissistic agendas in that room, and not the American people. So you got Joe Biden's State of the Union. You didn't get the people's State of the Union. And if the country was doing so great, people wouldn't think we're heading in the wrong direction. People wouldn't think their life is worse off. It's a complete administrative state, control of you, no care of you, state of their agenda and narrative, not a state of your union or life. There was a lot of big sins to go with the big lies. And when you're not in a room that you can control the theater, you can control the audience. Now, they don't have applause signs, but that's basically what your party does for you. And unlike the size of audience, which was the lowest in history to watch a State of the Union, this would be prior to a Super Bowl. With no control, with no laugh track, with no standing ovation track, not in control. That's a problem for Joe Biden. And if you think Judy Woodruff was tough with her redirects, can you imagine what Brett Baer might do to him? So what's the story? The story is the obvious. Even if you're John Podesta, you can't trust this guy to sit down with Fox News. You can't play the same lying games you played in a controlled theater of the State of the Union, or even having to answer one tough question that you got caught lying about and misleading about with Judy Woodruff. So the headline in Variety is Fox News believes Super Bowl interview with the president won't take place. Now, again, that's not the end of the world. I enjoyed a lot of Super Bowls when it used to be about the game. I hate that it's become about everything but the game. And I certainly don't want politics and fighting right before a game. Now presidents don't call to congratulate the winning team. They do a political interview prior to a game. What does that have to do with sports and football? I get enough of that on ESPN. Just shut up. But I think we've been doing them every year since George W. Bush after 9/11. Or maybe Obama started it. I don't remember. I wish I could get... It seems like Bush did one after 9/11. But then it was
checking for you, Brother Michael.
I think it was you know what? I'm going to go on record. I'm going to change my final answer. I think it was the obsession with Barack Obama, because I even remember, I kind of remember who interviewed him. And it wasn't like a news anchor. It was like a black analyst. I remember Clark Kellogg did one with him prior to the NBA Finals, but I can't remember who did the very first one. I'm thinking it started with Obama in 2009, and it'll end with his vice president who has to run and hide because he can't get away with lies and he can't construct a sentence. I can tell you this. At this moment, Fox would tell you a finals decision has not been announced yet by the White House, so there's still a chance a conversation could take place, but executives at Fox are proceeding as if it will not.
Interesting. When I do a search, it doesn't say anything about former presidents who have done this.
Oh, it's been every year since. I think
it has.
I think there might have been one because of 9/11 with Bush, but every year began with Obama. And, of course, it was the obsessive worship of Obama that they had to shove him even down our face with that. But with this size audience prior to a Super Bowl and not being in control of the theater and can't interrupt with claps and standing ovations and not being in control of the questions and Fox being in control of it, my bet is I'm going to stick with the Eagles -1.5 and Joe Biden's a no-show, but we'll see. Time will tell heading into the Super Bowl. It's 10:51 at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Michael DelGiorno, and United Structural Systems has been the go-to company for decades when it comes to concrete lifting, waterproofing, foundation repair, because they're the best. It started with Dad, son still runs it. Your first dead giveaway is if you're seeing something suspicious, and it could be cracks in your bricks, Could be bowing basement walls, leaning chimneys, moisture in the crawl space or basement. Concrete's pretty simple. It cracks and sinks. We don't send a salesman to your house. First of all, the inspection, the understanding, and the estimate is absolutely free and no obligation and handled by a project manager. Someone in the problem-solving business, not the generating business. Can't say that about all the other companies. And a good percentage of the time, it's nothing. And that's peace of mind that you need. But if it is something significant, you want to catch it earlier because the longer you wait, the less options and more expensive it's going to be. Denial's getting you nowhere but in trouble. We guarantee our best. Call USS. 23,100% residential families. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau. Call 227-2275. 227-2275. That's 227-2275. Or we're online at USSTN.com.
The FBI is at former Vice President Mike Pence's home in Indiana. Got an update on the southern border crisis and what the Florida legislature has just passed that gives Governor Ron DeSantis the power to do. Coming up at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Do we have confirmation yet? Can I go on the air with it? Let me know. We're getting reports that the FBI is in the attic of Mike Pence's house. They think they've located his personality. See what I mean about bombing at stand-up comedy? Those are the kind of things that happen. And then I'm scarred. I mean, I used to give speeches all the time, and then I became too neurotic to do that. Because I'm still. By the way, no matter where I go, that picture of Jill Biden and Doug Emhoff kissing.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. I mean, actually, they're a better couple together than with their spouses. And that's a real kid. And she's closing her. They're both closing their eyes.
Goodness. goodness.
I got to go back and watch the live video of that. I mean, at their age, you don't do tongue anymore, so that looks pretty affectionate. Has anybody asked Mamala Kamala what she thinks of her husband kissing Joe Biden on the lips? I mean, I think they're both the first lady and the first man. And no matter where I go, I keep seeing that picture. It's like haunting me and scarring me. No, but like whenever I would do a speech, then I would lay in bed all night and wish I had said this or wish I had said that. It drove me crazy. With comedy, of course, you just bomb and then you don't ever want to do it again. But yeah. Fake eggs are on the rise. I'll tell you why next hour. That's my best tease. I was looking at the ratings for the president, Ken. Roughly 23 million viewers across 7 major television networks watched. By the way, that becomes the second lowest State of the Union because Biden is the lowest. And again, you just go through an election. You just have an inauguration speech, and then you come back a week later or two and do there shouldn't be a State of the Union when a guy's only been in office less than 30 days. But I don't remember if that was Obama, too, that started that. I think it was. So his very first one, which was just days after the inauguration speech, had only 22 million people, which is the lowest. This 23 million becomes the second lowest, and down from 34 million a year ago, which should have been his first State of the Union, but was technically his second State of the Union address. Here's what I found that was really interesting. This will prove bias. So Fox News placed first among the major networks. I don't know why mine was on CBS. Like, I can almost promise you I never watch ABC, NBC, or CBS. Ever. Mm-hmm. I don't even know who their anchors are, let alone their reporters. Sometimes, if I'm interested in what the crazy far left is saying, I'll do MSNBC. If I just want to see what the liberal left is doing, I'll watch CNN. Or I just stay with my home announcers on Fox. So Fox placed first among all the networks. More people turned to the State of the Union with Martha McCallum and Brett Baer at 4.6 million than ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN. ABC was next at 4.3 million. NBC, and you wonder why all the layoffs at Comcast, was at 3.7 million. CBS was 3.52 million. Let me give you an example. NBC, the mother network, had 3.7 million viewers. MSNBC, the cable network, had 3.46 million. Why even bother to carry it on NBC? It can't even beat its cable network. CNN at 2.3 million. I mean, CNN is just dead, isn't it?
And I thought they were making all those changes.
Regular Fox had 1.6 million. So just as I asked Ken earlier, why might the president not want to do a Super Bowl interview? What might these numbers be really showing us? Don't just get caught up in the bad numbers of little people, few people watching. Of the few people watching, what do these numbers tell you? More when we come back at 11 o'clock on Super Talk Night. At least I find it fascinating. And I only bomb doing stand-up comedy. I will not bomb after the news. I guarantee it. There. And the Eagles will win by 12. Bye.
It's 11 o'clock on the dot this Friday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we got more traffic issues downtown. It looks like that overturned truck, they're trying to get that out of the way. So they're on the East Loop, and the right lane and right exit lane are blocked right now. 24 eastbound at James Robertson Parkway. That is on the East Loop downtown. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes, and we got another classified document search.
Sources told ABC News the FBI is conducting a consensual search of former Vice President Pence's Indiana home after documents with classified markings were found there last month. The Justice Department had been talking to Pence's legal team, which agreed to the search. The FBI declined to comment. One of Pence's lawyers conducted the initial search of Pence's home and discovered the documents.
Aaron Katursky reporting. Southern border crisis update. NBC says the Florida legislature has just voted to expand a program to fly migrants to sanctuary cities and states. The measure passed in a special session, formally creating, in Florida, the Unauthorized Alien Transport Program under the state's Division of Emergency Management. Governor Ron DeSantis will have the authority to be able to relocate migrants elsewhere from any state in the country, not just from Florida. Since Texas started busing illegal immigrants to sanctuary cities and states, at least 15,000 have arrived in New York, Washington, Chicago, and elsewhere. Tennessee lawmakers considering rejecting federal education dollars so the state no longer has to follow all of the federal education rules that come with it. Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton telling News 2.
We're going to fund everything that money's flowing to, but we're just not going to have the federal government giving it to us.
Speaker Sexton also says this would allow teachers in Tennessee to teach students without catering their lesson plans to national standardized tests. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
This just from Victoria Jackson. That was funny. Pence's personality in the attic. Don't even try to sucker me back in. I've been scarred, and I will never return to the stage again. You won't have me to kick around anymore. I ain't bobbing no more. Yeah, it's getting expensive to afford old Joe. And by the way, I love how, they just try to make, it's all about controlling you. But, they don't want us eating animals. Now we got to eat like them. And there's a good reason for it. They exhale and they fart and they poop. But isn't it interesting? All the things that we can't afford have us doing what they want us to do. I'll give you an example. The price of eggs are sky high. That's what everybody's talking about. So we're seeing more and more people turning to egg substitutes, plant-based eggs like Just Eggs or Zero Eggs. Fake eggs. So we have fake news and fake eggs.
That's weird. A fake egg.
A fake, yeah. It really begs the fun question. What fake, like when I hear these stories about printing food, 3D food, I don't even understand how that works.
Yeah.
You go to a copier and get a burger and start chewing on it? I don't even understand. That doesn't make any, of all the fake, that's the fake I don't even understand. But I did the plant-based Whopper until I read a story about, oh, by the way, I thought George W. Bush was the first. That was my recollection in a post-9/11 culture.
Okay.
I was reading a story, and I don't think it was Fox either. Wait, I can look still. No, I can't. I shrunk it already. And it was saying 2009 Obama. Have we confirmed it started in 2000?
I can't find it, Brother Michael.
2004 is what I found with Bush.
But I don't remember Bush like in 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008.
Huh.
But I don't remember a Super Bowl since Obama without a president interview. Now they get lower and lower in the pregame show. Like now they've kind of found their home 2.5 hours before kickoff.
Well, and I know sometimes, like with Donald Trump, they did it like in the morning.
Yeah, Trump, they even buried more.
Yeah.
So we don't know when it started. We just know that Joe Biden's running. So I did the plant-based Whopper. I thought it tasted great. I remember reading an article. I never even vetted the article, but it said something about cancer causing. So I just never got one again. It's probably a stupid article.
Whopper.
I can't imagine a fake egg.
A fake egg?
And then when you botch your omelet or when you're cracking it, you can't do a fake egg. So it's got to be liquid egg, right? They can't fake an egg in a shell. I was going to say you could blame it on you cracked your egg. That was a fake egg. That doesn't count.
It's beans.
Yes.
It's just beans.
Are you reading? Why do you do that? Why don't you wait for me to unfold the story?
Oh, I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's just that I just want you to enjoy being with me. You don't have to.
Rats.
Am I that bad of a talk show? You're looking ahead to bail me out?
No.
Relax. I know where we're going. Yes, but all right. So my point was, all right, so you're going to make a fake egg. And this is how you arrive at it. Chickpeas, potatoes, peas and soy.
Mm.
I don't even know what a mung bean is.
No.
Fake eggs can be more expensive than real eggs, though prices have fallen recently, and real eggs have gotten so outrageous they've caught up. So normally a fake egg is more than a real egg, but now that real eggs are so sky high, a fake egg is better. And by the way, that's not even doing the story from earlier in the week. We're smuggling. People are crossing the border into Mexico to get eggs.
Yeah.
A mung bean is known as the green gram, and it's part of the legume family.
Now you're doing it. Where are you guys when I'm doing stand-up comedy and need some real help?
I know this.
I'll take a dozen eggs and some fentanyl.
And some Gas X, please.
Some gas. Since when don't beans make you fart? That's from Red. Well,
now
I want to
eggs
hear.
are going to.
Now I want to hear the typewriters. Well, beans don't always make you fart. Wouldn't it be funny if there is no Google and it's just Ken and Mac? 11:06 at Super Talk 99.7. The news was brought to you by At 11:11, we have partly cloudy skies now, a little more sunshine. 49 degrees in Franklin, 50 in Mount Juliet, 49 in the Borough. Downtown on Music Road, naked statues, partly cloudy skies, 50 degrees. It feels like 49. The market, Dow's up 34, NASDAQ's down 142, and the S&P's down 13. It's a mixed bag, but triple figures on the NASDAQ side. We'll call the market slightly down at 11:12. Now, if you think mortgage rates are still super high, you need to think again. 5-month lows. Call my friends at Loan Pronto. See just how low they are. Some of you locked in the sixes, many of you in the sixes, some of you even in the sevens. Correct that. APRs are now in the 4. You need to think about refinancing. A lot of you are dealing with debt and getting fleeced by interest and getting nowhere and paying off the credit cards. Your home value has gone up. You can access that equity and pay down. Don't rack it up, but pay it down. You want to free up cash flow to afford inflation. You want to get rid of debt, all of it if possible, any attached to a variable rate heading into recession. And then a lot of you just need to plain get back out looking at houses again and start hunting again. The rates are there. Lock in your rates today. We can get it all done in 14 days. Wipe out your credit card debt. Close in 14 days. Cut your overall expenses. Loan Pronto is the place. 499-5780. That's 499-5780. Call 499-5780 today. Online at loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval. Oh, Brother Ken, Brother Ken, Brother Ken, Brother Ken.
Brother Michael.
I was just about to switch to, Brother Mac, Brother Mac, Brother Mac, Brother do you remember the first book you ever read?
The very first book I ever read.
Isn't that a tough one? I happen to know mine. It's embarrassing, by the way, and it's inexplicable, but I do remember mine.
I think mine was The King and His Men.
King and His Men?
Yes.
I was at the Westgate Elementary School in Arlington Heights, Illinois, and I went to the library. And I was not a big reader at the time, obviously. I didn't know how to swim, but for some reason, the first book I ever checked out and the first book now I went on to read every one that they made. And I remember reading the one about Muhammad Ali. I remember reading the one about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Library that had these thick hardcover thin books. Hang on a second. I don't know if it's doing it on your end, but it looks like it is.
Sound good now.
Tell me if it...
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Mine was The King with Six Friends.
Oh, still thinking about yourself, are you? You came back to further elaborate on you. Okay. No, I was glitching. I wanted to correct something. No, but it had this little section. I don't know if you remember this when you were a kid, but they were really thick hardcover books with like a painting of the athlete. And then it was thin and it was just their bio. It would basically be their Wikipedia with a cover now. And I remember that I did Mark Spitz. I remember I did Muhammad Ali. I did Joe Namath. I did the... Jackie Robinson. I'm trying to think of what other ones I did. I ended up reading them all. But believe it or not, and I don't know why I remember it, the first book I ever read was Mark Spitz. Interesting for a kid who didn't read. Interesting for a kid that didn't even know how to swim or really care about Mark Spitz. Mark Spitz is 73 years old today. Seems like yesterday I watched him win 7 Olympic medals. Seems like yesterday I checked out that book and read it. Pretty darn good golfer who never seemed to win the big one. Greg Norman, 68 years old today. I just watched her last night on a Curb Your Enthusiasm, one of my favorites. And it's not just because of how she looks. In fact, if you've never seen Elizabeth Banks in Walk of Shame, which is it's a comedy, but I mean, it's just one of those, you leave for the day. How could things continue to just get worse and worse and worse and everything go wrong kind of a movie? And she is brilliant. I'm talking Lucille Ball brilliant throughout this movie. Elizabeth Banks, one of my favorites, 49 years old. And Robert Wagner. All right, let's do the under-over like we do in football. How old do you think old Robert is? We all know Christopher Walken killed his wife, but how old do you think Robert is?
77?
Wow, he thanks you. Mac, Who's Robert Wagner? Okay.
Yeah.
Robert Wagner is 93 years old.
Goodness. Who am I thinking
Yes. Well, you know, Robert Wagner, last seen being number 2, I think, in the Austin Powers movies, right? I don't think he's done anything since then. Robert Wagner was a very famous movie star.
That makes sense.
Okay, I know this guy. Yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, it takes a thief, heart to heart throughout the 70s to mid 80s.
Heart. Yes.
He was in 2.5 Men. And then last scene, I think, is number 2. I'm trying to get. There might not have been anything recent on him. Let me see. Robert Wagner.
He was Tim Watley's dad in that Seinfeld where Bryan Cranston played Tim Watley, the dentist.
Yeah, he was in that. I don't know when this picture was. I hate when they do that.
He was in the new Space Jam?
This seems to be this is the most recent picture from Reuters. I mean, remember when you said 70? What did you say, 77?
77.
You'd be stretching to say this guy at 93, it's a stretch to say he looks 70.
Wow.
He looks terrific. Why am I hearing an echo?
I don't know. I hear it too.
Well, actually, I found one that's even. I found one that's more. I'm about to give our. Today, I consider myself. I'm going to send it to you, Ken. Mac doesn't know who he is, so it won't mean anything. This is the latest picture I can find of him. If I look like that at 93, I think even the Lord will look down and go, let him stay a little longer.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell he's aged, but he does look good for 93.
Well, you know, we always just talk about George Burns. George Burns looked good at 100.
Yes, he did. And he was still sharp
did.
as
he was God at 8. Yeah, he was like God at 88, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was, actually.
Anyway, Robert Wagner, 93, Mark Spitz, 73, Greg Norman, 68, Elizabeth Banks, 49, and happy birthday if it's your birthday. Nothing on television, 2020. Lopez versus Lopez, and then Young Rock, and then Dateline. I like to watch big men in really tight panties wrestle. WWE Friday Night SmackDown. Then you got SWAT, Fire Country. That's the other thing. I think we've got more firemen on TV than we do in firehouses. Followed, of course, by always our Pick-to-Click on Friday. Blue Bloods. Blue Bloods. In other words, nothing on television till Sunday, Super Bowl 57. Chris Stapleton to do the national anthem, America the Beautiful by Babyface. Rihanna will do the halftime show. We still don't know if there'll be a Biden interview, and the computer simulation has Eagles winning 31-17, and so do I.
Trash. Trusting a video game. Trusting a video game. That's funny.
I'm laughing at Mac's response, man. Mac, I mean, he fires right back.
He does. I mean, my gosh. Gosh, I hate you, Mac. Oh, I'm cool with that. I don't think Kansas City's going to win the game. I want to shoot you. I think you love the Kansas City Chiefs. You love the Lord thy Chiefs with all your heart, soul, and mind. You really love that team.
You're not wrong. Hopefully it's happy tears on Sunday for me.
Yes. Either way, he's taking Monday off. That reminds me, remember when Tommy Stewart took the day off when that wrestler died? Oh, you weren't here yet, were you? I don't think
I was here for that one.
Tommy was like, 2 people in my life were really into wrestling, and I don't get it. One was my third baseman, Tap Bentz, and so every time we'd be driving to baseball away games, he'd be sitting there reading wrestling magazines, and I'd have my headphones in, listen to REO Speedway. I'm like, what are you doing? I lost all respect for him. And Tommy was the same way, and somebody died, some wrestler died, and he got so upset he was crying he had to leave work early. I had a producer leave my show because of a WWE death. You can't make this stuff up. We're looking at the numbers of the of the State of the Union address, and obviously Joe Biden with a second to lowest rating ever, and that was 22 million, or 23 million, and the reason, and that's over 7 platforms, so all networks doing ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, then all the cable networks, MSNBC, CNN, and Fox, all doing coverage, and you can't add it up to 23 million, just under 23 million, which is the second lowest in history because the first one Biden did at 22 was the lowest, and that's down from 34 million a year ago. But let's dig deeper into the numbers and see if we can learn something about ourselves, even beyond what we already know about Joe Biden. We'll do that when we come back on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Rutherford County Schools says students and staff are safe, but one student had to be removed from this particular school this morning. We'll tell you why. And a Safe Haven baby box set up in Bowling Green gets its first baby. We'll tell you about it at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I was reading that story this morning, and what a beautiful baby it was, too. All right, so looking at these numbers, most people in talk radio just go, old Joe, nobody's buying these lies, nobody's even watching. Well, I said prior to, I haven't really commented since, if you know the president is going to do this reality, because that's what the State of the Union is, that's the biggest failure of the State of the Union, it didn't address the State of the Union. It's just, while everybody's hurting and suffering, he's just going to talk like everything's hunky-dory. So I said, once you start a speech based on a lie, where can you go? Not to mention the making of the messenger before the message doesn't make any sense. 61% of his own party don't even want him to run. There's just nothing to make people watch this. So I knew it was going to be poor ratings. It turned out to be the lowest, second lowest in history. But when you go inside the numbers, show you how bad it is. Fox led in the ratings with 4.3 million viewers of over 7 venues. Do you realize that was only 793,000 in demo, 2554? Translation, all these numbers, when we add them up, the 23 million, are probably 80% people over 60. There's generations not watching at all. Nobody even explores that. The politics has gotten to a point where only older people watch and care. Younger people don't even care until weeks before the election. That's evident in these numbers. You have ABC, NBC, and CBS all after Fox News. Cable news network is beating the major networks. News at ABC, NBC, and CBS is virtually dead. This is not the America that would watch Walter Cronkite if we landed on the moon. Thirdly, when you go inside the cable companies, and even if you're going to add up everybody in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, you get Fox in first place at 4.6 million, followed by ABC 4.3 million, NBC 3.7 million, CBS 3.52 million, MSNBC 3.46 million. To make my point, MSNBC is almost within a couple thousand people tied with NBC, the mother network. There's no difference. And the oddest of odd men out, CNN, 2.3 million. What might we exegete from that number and how it relates to the matrix itself? This is so inquisitive, interesting, and or brilliant. It may even make our podcast, which is now available on Apple. There, I got the plug in. It's 11:30 at WTN.
Well, this isn't good right before lunch. We have some crashes to tell you about. Right now, that overturned truck and the effort to get it out of the way on the East Loop is blocking the right lane and right exit lane at 24 eastbound James Robertson Parkway. Got a rolling roadblock now, the West Loop downtown. This is 40 westbound at the I-65 exit 208. And then stop-and-go traffic, 65 southbound between I-24 north and I-24 downtown. Right now in Middle Tennessee, a student is in custody after taking a gun to school. Rutherford County Schools says the gun was unloaded, but Laverne Middle School was put under a brief code red while authorities removed that student from class. And Rutherford County Schools says there will be charges. Right now in Kentucky, News 2 says a Safe Haven baby box got its first baby this morning, this one in Bowling Green. The baby box had been placed in Bowling Green in December of 2022, and it was the 132nd location in the nation, according to a news release from the founder and CEO of Safe Haven Baby Boxes. That's the latest news. Weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
11:34 in the morning. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 50 with fair skies at the Puffy Muffin in Brentwood, 52 to the north in Hendersonville, 51 downtown. Market, Dow's up 64, but NASDAQ's down 141. S&P nearly flat, down 10. It's a mixed bag and not really going anywhere yet. I was reading an interesting article in The Nation, and the headline was Joe Biden following the lead of the West Coast progressives. And this particular op-ed piece and analysis breaks down some CNN polling numbers, and it finds where only 7% went into the speech thinking that the president, his specific policy proposals would move the country in the right direction. After the speech, that number for CNN jumped to 45%. Among independents, the number was at 40%, and then it jumped to 66%. Now, this is basing a lot of opinion on a CNN poll. Too much for my blood, number one. Number two, it might tell you more about what the president's speech accomplished less than what CNN's audience makeup is. But that all gets conflated and confused. So I spent about 15, 20 minutes on a story I planned not even to talk about. In fact, I found the ratings to be more revealing. Just got this from Joe. Now, keep in mind, 22 million people watched the State of the Union. The most watched Fox News at 4.6 million, but right under them was everybody else, which we've kind of gone through the numbers. And you can see ABC wasn't far behind at 4.3 million. Then NBC 3.7, CBS 3.52, MSNBC 3.46. Pretty even until you get to CNN at 2.3 million and Fox at 1.6 million. So don't jump to the assumption that most people watch the State of the Union on Fox. Therefore, most people that watch the State of the Union don't agree with the president. So why bother give the speech, which is the question? Because that's not true. In fact, when I dug deeper and I saw that even Fox in the lead was 793,000, 25 to 54 viewers, that's not a lot. So that screams the majority, 80+% of the people watching the State of the Union are at least 55 years old or older. Young people weren't interested at all. That's just age alone. In fact, it doesn't come up in that interesting article I was just quoting, but I think the question could be, did they play the Social Security game knowing that all that's left watching State of the Unions in non-election years are older people? You see how suddenly that just gets flipped and now sounds wiser than you think? And I don't have to tell you that the older someone is, the less the proclivity to go on social media or have alternative sources of news or dig deeper. Like mainstream media can't confuse me. Mainstream media can't tell me a lie, and I have no way to offset it. First, I know the truth before they say it, but if I don't, I know where to go to get information, and I know how to do it. But if I'm older and I'm less inclined to have these alternative sources, all I have maybe is a talk radio show I listen to counter it. It's a pretty smart, effective thing to do. You have predominantly only older people watching. Go ahead and scare the older people. And knowing they won't have alternative sources to go to, they have no way to offset the lie. So you spent all week investing your time, and what a ridiculous lie that was. They never do that. The lie's just still dangling there. That was my first observation. My second observation was, why is CNN so low? You know, CNN started it all with the original Gulf War. That's what put cable television news on the map. And then, having the monopoly, dominating, they moved from newscasts, and news reporting to talk shows. Talk radio existed before the Gulf War. I know. I was running a talk radio network. Rush Limbaugh existed before the original Gulf War. So even talk radio from, believe it or not, talk radio's original days were swap shop. We used to listen to it like a freak show, kind of like when you watch public access television. Then it became about, it went through a specialist phase. People don't even remember these names, but Bruce Williams was the mainstay in talk radio syndication, and it was legal advice. Not Dr. Laura Schlesinger. Before her, Dr. Joy Brothers giving marriage, relationship, and psychological advice. Advice shows was the next step in the evolution of talk radio. And then Rush came and changed it all. Because even though there were some people, I'm trying to remember the guy in New York that was famous, and I'm blanking, it's never going to come to me. That's a shame. He's an icon. He was one of the first to do issue-oriented political talk, and that really influenced the format. It started to take off, and people would take local personalities and do local topics, and then it started just not being about ridiculous stuff like 10 chickens are for sale, and started actually being conversation. Now, at that time, nobody was really interested in politics, so they'd get into the weeds, and it would Bob Grant. Thank you, Red. Bob Grant was the first one to come along and do issue-oriented talk, but Rush was the first to come and be a phenomenon that attracted tens of millions of listeners and do it in an entertaining way. Then the format exploded. It went from being a fringe format that nobody really wanted to run, nobody was really listening to, nobody was really advertising on, to being market leaders. But CNN really started the kind of talk that divides us. The political slanted talk. And then Rush gave you the opposing side. And that kind of battled for a long time. And then, not to be left out, NBC did a partnership with Microsoft. Then you had MSNBC, then Fox, and Rupert Murdoch and Roger Ailes gave you, Fox News. And then the social dilemma really kicked in. But you could make a case, Rush and CNN launched by news in a Gulf War that you could watch 24 hours a day, literally bombs going off, launched them. And then they launched talk the way we do it. Political, partisan talk. And they were the first, and they were the leader. Mac wasn't alive, but I was. I can tell you there was a time everyone's night was defined by Crossfire, Pat Buchanan, and I can't remember who was on with Pat, who the liberal was. But you had Crossfire and Larry King. That was it. That's what everybody watched that was into the kind of things that we're into, which is political discussions and issue-oriented discussions. There was no one else in it. Then, with the help of, led by Bill O'Reilly, later adding others, Fox launched a competitive and a victorious competitive assault that has never been overtaken. Now, get to modern times. So it all begins with CNN, and now they're in last. On the night of the State of the Union, CNN is last. Well, there was a point, and we made a big deal out of it on this show about a decade ago. Barack Obama comes along. Now, Barack Obama, like Ronald Reagan, like John F. Kennedy, like FDR, and I don't think anyone else in modern life, was a transforming president in the sense that they were bigger than even the office. Only this time, Kennedy, of course, was launched at the onset of television. He was the first television president. In fact, many credit is if that debate with Nixon wasn't televised, Nixon would have won. Reagan then becoming the next biggest television president. I think to some degree Bill Clinton was, but you can't put him at the level of Barack Obama and John F. Kennedy or Ronald Reagan. So Obama was a big personality. And now it's not just regular terrestrial television, you have cable television. It was at that moment that MSNBC made the choice. Now, it could have been a deal off screen. Could have been a deal with Podesta and Soros. But they became the Obama network. And I remember saying, from a broadcasting, programming, strategic sense, what a big mistake. Because even if he's a two-term president, what are you at in 8 years? But they went all in and became the Obama network. At that moment, and we're talking not long after I moved here in 2009, I said if CNN was smart, they'd go back to center, and they'd beat both Fox and MSNBC. Go back to being objective news and talk. You'll win. Now, you do it now, you've waited too long. Mac doesn't remember the early days of CNN with Ted Turner. Mac doesn't remember the original Gulf War. He doesn't probably even remember the second Gulf War. So now you've waited too long. But at the time in 2008-9, when I was saying it, everybody was in the heart of that 2554 demo, and their Disney was CNN. They would have gladly gone home. Now, fast forward, I give you different analogies, like Chris Wallace. Chris Wallace thinks he can leave Fox and go to CNN and have a career, or help CNN have credibility and success? Boy, you don't know much about marketing. You weren't watching Megyn Kelly very closely. Did anybody notice Megyn Kelly's career? She left Fox to go to NBC, and they found out no one would watch her. That should tell you a lot about NBC's audience. And a lot about those who loved her on Fox's ability to go into the tax collector's home every day, NBC, to watch someone. Well, the right didn't trust her because she left, and where she went. The left, where she went, didn't trust her because she used to be at Fox. It was a disaster. How's Shep Smith doing outside of Fox? In the Matrix today, in the social dilemma today, you can't leave. There is no middle ground. So what is CNN trying to do now, 13 years late from when I was telling them to do it? They're trying to act like they're going back to center. And it's not working for the same reasons I just described. Anybody on the right is going to see the center as left, and anybody on the left is going to see the center as right. There is no market for it. When I look at these glaring numbers, I see the big loser. I mean, you could say the biggest loser, Fox Entertainment. Because when a State of the Union happens, they go to Fox News, the cable network, but they don't watch the same coverage on the Fox Broadcasting Network. You can only get 1.6 million to watch Channel 17's version of it because they want to go directly to the Fox News Channel version of it. That's an odd one to sit and discuss. Yesterday, I said something that went over everybody else's head. You're going to have right narratives and left narratives. I see it everywhere. But the person who stands their ground, and as an American, as a believer, as a critical thinker, as an absolute truther, stays focused on the truth, stays focused, takes each story one at a time, each person one at a time, and vets them based on credibility, vets them based on fact, against the landscape of truth, you're the first to go. I think I am going to be the toughest thing to last on this radio station because I think most of this audience now wants a right narrative. Just like if I was on the college station or whatever the NPR station is, no one would want me there. They only want the left. You're in a matrix now. You're going to become a godless, truthless, no place for light, salt, and truthless place very, very soon. And I think even though it started on the left with CNN, it already began. And that's why CNN only had 2.3 million. And I don't have to tell you, just a couple 100,000 of that were 25 to 54. So all of this matrix, all of this social dilemma, all of this partisan division that has left us in extreme corners, well, CNN is proving there's no going back. And that's why Megyn Kelly didn't work. That's why Shepard Smith didn't work. That's why Chris Wallace isn't going to work. That's why CNN isn't going to work. Now you're back to the documentary, The Social Dilemma, and what you should be really fearing. That's why when Dan played that montage earlier in the week, and I could certainly play a montage of the right doing the same thing to the left, but that one from the left on the right, I mean, those are war words. As we head into a Super Bowl weekend, my eyes are on Ukraine. My eyes are on China. My eyes are on a higher and higher by the moment proclivity for a world war, as I'm also watching the proclivity for a cold civil war that has already begun within our borders. I mean, these are scary times. And that's just what I see when I look at the ratings of a State of the Union. But what are most people saying? Boy, the president really did a great job calling out the Republicans, and now they're stuck. They're not going to be able to cut Social Security. They're not going to be able to cut Medicare, even though they had no intention of cutting it ever. And then the right saying, what a dumb thing to do. This is a lying president. This is a senile president. And then I'm looking at the ratings going, no, that's a pretty smart call. You just duped the most likely to vote older voters with a lie. And then as I'm digging, I'm thinking, I don't think this is West Coast progressivism. This is administrative state, Podesta Soros, radical destruction of a republic agenda. And look who the big loser was, CNN, because there's no going back to the middle. Not in a post-critical thinking America. Not in a post-Judeo-Christian America. Not in a reasonable, rational America. Now, I guess I could do the Angry Rooster because I predicted no one would be watching, and it was the second lowest in history. But what you ought to be more worried about is, for those that you mock me, that's all you do is say the circle. Social dilemma, matrix. By the time you figure out I was right about that, either a world war or a civil war will prove to you it's too late. And that's our final say. It's 11:52 at WTN. Well, there's an old expression, better late than never. I want to thank Rich and the team, the digital team at WTN. We are finally available with daily podcasts now on Apple Podcast. Subscribe today. I put the link on my Facebook wall, but you'll find all the hosts at WTN now available through Apple Podcasts. And I appreciate that. And I hope that last segment maybe is the podcast of choice, or maybe our visit with Victoria Jackson. We're sure grateful for her. And if you want to see her show tomorrow night at what I think is going to become one of the favorite venues in our area, the Homestead Hall. She'll be at 7 o'clock in Columbia tomorrow night in her farewell tour of stand-up comedy. You can get your tickets at homesteadhall.com. How easy is that to remember? I guess the closing... I had one other story I was going to get to that I'm not going to have time to do. Big headline in the Hill. LGBTQ community reports more abuse on Twitter since Musk takeover. I read that story start to finish. I couldn't find any examples of abuse. I mean, you would think if you have a story of abuse. I mean, there's a story, I can't even bring it up. I'm not emotionally strong enough to even discuss it. A 14-year-old who gets bullied at school and comes home and kills herself. This is a scab for me. I have been putting it off. David Zanotti, by the way, once suggested this. And in all of my brain damage, I still remember it. But I went to school with Jonathan Rabb. Jonathan Rabb was bullied every day for wearing the same pair of shoes with holes in them, the same pair of pants that were very distinctive. It's not like it was just the same pair of jeans. You couldn't miss these stripes from a mile away. And the same T-shirt, dirty and stained. And everyone made fun of him. And what haunts me to this day is that it never dawned on me to just bring him clothes. I would sit out there during recess when everyone would tease him, and I'd tell him not to listen to that. And he eventually hung himself and killed himself. So it's a scab for me. When I see a 14-year-old girl that's been bullied at school and then came home and killed herself, and a bunch of people standing around doing nothing, it's right up there with that little girl that was 9 years old getting beaten by these boys on a bus. I mean, Sugar Ray Leonard had nothing on the flurries to her head that she received. These are stories I can't even do. Trust me, I know what bullying is. Not validating, not agreeing with is not bullying. So I'm reading this story top to finish, trying to figure out, all right, give me an example of what bullying is. Not a single example in a headline story of LGBTQ community reports more abuse. Disagreeing is now abuse? How about the abuse we get every day on the super text line? Is it worse than that? Because that's just a way of life in a social media America. And then more layoffs. This time, Yahoo to lay off 20% of its staff to go along with Comcast and NBC and MSNBC and their layoffs and walkouts in response to that, along with the Disney 7,000 jobs. But we're not heading into a recession, and woke isn't broke. Well, there's just some things that just have to wait. Final say, I really like the Eagles. I think they're a complete football team.
Ooh.
I really think they're going to win by double digits. But just in case they don't, please record this as well. I really like the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Right again, as always. No. Good luck to your team, Mac. I know how much it means to you. I was there once with the Saints. Enjoy the game, win or lose, and I hope you win. It's 11:59. Matt Murphy is next. I'll see you Monday morning at 9.
Efforts to retrieve remnants of China's spy balloon shot down last week and have been called off until Monday due to weather. A U.S. official says they've located, though, the bus-sized payload off the coast of South Carolina.
The discovery of that undercarriage is significant. That's the technology. That's the equipment that the balloon was carrying. That's why the balloon was there in the first place. That undercarriage, all of the surveillance equipment and things of that nature. That reporting from our Martha Raddatz, who says again that what's being called the bus, because it's the size of multiple buses, looks like it has been spotted. It is largely intact and it can be retrieved.
ABC's Jay O'Brien Brian on Capitol Hill. The FBI searching the home of former VP Mike Pence today, looking for possible classified material. Here's ABC's Aaron Katursky.
We're told former Vice President Pence is not at home in Indiana while the FBI conducts its search. Instead, one of Pence's lawyers is there, and the sources said the legal team promised unrestricted access. The Justice Department had been working with Pence's legal team to schedule this search after documents with classified markings were found at the home by one of Pence's lawyers. The earlier preemptive search followed the discovery of classified materials in the possession of President Biden.